former Vancouver Canuck, TSN hockey analyst, and ex-teammate to Sidney Crosby, Mr. Frank Corrado.
Ex-teammate, yeah. Very, very brief moment in time, but I guess, hey, it's true. They can never take it away from you, right, buddy?
Exactly.
Once it hits hockey DB, it can never be taken away from you.
Exactly. Do you remember meeting him for the first time?
Yeah. The first and only player I was really starstruck from. I played with some really cool special players along the way, but that one was like, holy crap, that's Sidney Crosby. And he's right there, and talk to him, shake his hand, all that kind of stuff. Really though, so humble and modest, so professional in everything he does and did. But yeah, I was really starstruck meeting him for the first time.
Was this in the Penguins dressing room?
Yeah. Penguins dressing room, called up. Actually, it would have been on the road because I got called up the first time we were playing a game in Buffalo. So I walked into that Buffalo visitors room, or it was the meal room beforehand at the hotel. And then you're just like, holy crap, that's Sidney Crosby. So in Vancouver, we went on the Western Canada road trip, and I like to get to the rink pretty early. I guess he likes to get to the rink early. And so we were walking from the Fairmont Pacific Rim, I don't know, to catch a cab or something. We were just walking around, and some lady, I can guarantee you this lady had never watched a real game of hockey in her life. She walks by us, and then she takes a few more steps, and then she stops, and all you hear is she goes, "Oh my God, that's the hockey player." It's if you were going to know one hockey player, that would be the guy.
That's the hockey player, the Tim Hortons hockey player guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Brad Marchand mic'd up walking back into the room after the game yesterday, and he's glowing up Sidney for his participation. And he and McDavid, Marchand and McDavid, are just heaping praise on Crosby for the game that he played. And Crosby doesn't say a word, just happily taking off his shin pads. I mean, the guy, he seems about as level and grounded a hockey player as there's ever been.
Yeah, he has such a big impact on everyone that he comes across, and that's not an easy thing to do, right? So many people can just be two ships in the night. You cross paths, you don't really, you don't have that much in common, you don't talk that much, or you're just kind of there. It feels like everyone that has crossed paths with this guy has some kind of something that made an impact. I can tell you a few other stories. There was one day at practice in Pittsburgh. I was, doing stuff after practice. He's always doing stuff after practice, but he came up to me. He's like, "I need you to give me this pass." And he goes, "Put it in my skates. And then I need you to do some tips for me. And then I need you to do some bobbled passes." I'm like, "Sign me up, man. You need me to make passes for you." But that's, that's how engaging of a guy he is. And he keeps everyone involved that way. Another one was, we had a day off, and this is pretty common for him. We had a day off, or a very, very optional day where no one was really supposed to be at the rink other than the guys that don't play. And so I get to the rink, and you can hear there's music and some clanking in the gym, and you walk in, it's this guy's already, throwing iron around. The guys that were supposed to be there, we haven't even started our program yet, and this guy's already halfway through a workout, and he's sweating buckets. It's crazy, but that's what drives him. And I got him to laugh one time. This is something I'm very, very proud of. We were showering. There was me, Sid, and Ryan Reeves, I think, was in there. And there was 2 towels left. I think Sid grabbed one, and then there was 1 towel left. And I think I looked at Sid, I looked at Reeves, and I said, "I think I got this one, boys." And everyone had a good chuckle about that, because Ryan Reeves is obviously the heavyweight champ. If anyone was going to grab the last anything, it was going to be Reeves. So, just a unbelievable experience, even for the short period of time, to be around him. Just incredible.
Did you find yourself just looking at him, watching him, observing him?
In a weird way,
not to get weird here, Frank.
Not the shower story.
Not in the bad question coming off the shower.
Yeah.
My bad. I'll put myself on.
No, but okay. So you know what though?
But when you say starstruck, right? I think where you just can't help your eyes get fixed on him.
That's the thing. Like, you'd be sitting in the room and you look over, it's like, that's, Sid the Kid taping his stick. Or, I did play a few games for the Penguins, so I got to experience like the on the bench intermission, experience. And like, he's driven. Like, he really is very driven. And I can tell you for certain that, like, practices, he's the hardest working guy, and he's the one that is making sure like the tempo is up there all the time. So you kind of have no choice, Matt, but to watch him, because like, he's that engaging, and he's that
How vocal is he?
Professional.
Is he a Joe Sakic captain, or is he more vocal than that?
I think he's like, just knows like, this is the thing. Like, I wasn't around for the playoff runs. Like, I wasn't I was black acing for that. So I couldn't tell you about that. And that's, I think, where those guys are really like created, in those big moments, and you get to see what they're all about. But I think it's just like whatever the situation calls for. Like, it's not rah cheerleading fluff, but it's also there's more than just, I'm quiet and you have to watch me on the ice in order to see what it's all about. Like, it's somewhere just whatever the situation requires. And I mean, you could see the dressing room get pretty quiet, if he was going to address everyone.
I know we've all embraced analytics to some degree here, the three of us. Analytics has generally poo-pooed the idea of clutch performances. But the reason why we're talking about Sidney Crosby is his unbelievable ability to just rise to the occasion. I'm going to guess you do believe in clutch, and like, how do you even explain that?
I believe in the clutch gene. As someone who doesn't have it, I can tell you it's a very real thing. Like, there's some guys that just the opportunity comes up and the moments arise, and it's like they are made for it, and they grasp it, and they never look back, and they don't overthink it. And then there's some people, I would put myself in this category, where you start thinking about how big the moment is, or you start thinking about what happens if you grab this moment, and you get lost. You get lost in the shuffle, and you don't stay in the moment. And I think, for a guy like that, he's not thinking about anything on the outside. There's no distraction. It's right in the moment. And he's done, like, he's never had a misstep in any way, shape, or form in his career. Like, he really has done everything so polished and seemingly perfect. And like, that is incredibly difficult to do for anyone, but for a guy that's in the spotlight as much as him, with all the eyes and all the moments that he's had, I mean, it's crazy. Like, it's really hard. It's talking to you guys. It's hard to put it into words. And you guys have watched it too. Like, it's hard to put into words just how incredibly well he's handled everything on the biggest stages.
I heard you on, I forget if it was SportsCenter or That's Hockey This Week, say you not only saw but wanted Sidney to be a career Penguin. Have you no vision, Frank?
That hurt you, didn't it? That did hurt you.
I just, between Montreal, where he is so beloved, we're joking he's Sylvain Crosby there. Of course, he once upon a time counted himself as a Habs fan. Or here in Vancouver, where all his ex-Pittsburgh buddies are, or where he scored one of the biggest, if not the biggest, goal in Canadian hockey history. I would love to see this Canadian icon finish his career.
Well, did you watch the opening ceremony for Canada versus Sweden? Did you see that? There was a little something. There's a little nugget in there. A guy by the name of Mario Lemieux walked onto that ice, and the look that Sid and Mario had with each other leads me to believe that Sidney Crosby wants to follow in the footsteps of his mentor and former roommate and be with one organization, the Pittsburgh Penguins, his entire career. And that would follow Lidstrom, Yzerman, Sakic. I forget about Quebec and Colorado. It's the one franchise. But, I mean, it's such a rare thing that we just don't see anymore. And there's been so many incredible names in hockey history that haven't done it. Gretzky didn't do it. Bobby Orr didn't do it. Gordie Howe didn't do it. I just think there's something special, regardless of where you think the Penguins are at or where they're going in the near future. There is something special about him just being a Pittsburgh Penguin for life, and that's it.
Except you'll always be number 2 on that list, because Mario did it first, and then he went on to own the team that won Stanley Cups.
I don't know how much he would think about that. Well, Okay, so for argument's sake, let's say he went to Colorado and played with McKinnon. He would still be, best case scenario, number 2 in Colorado history because Joe Sakic is there. I mean, we can go through it all, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it would be Ray Borkian to a degree, no doubt. But then there's the competitive angle here, Frank. Like, they have not won a playoff series in, what is it, like 6-7 years now? And they are probably not going to win a playoff series. Well, this year and next.
You got to get, I don't see it happening. I know.
Right. And so I just think it would be a crying shame to see one of the greatest players we have ever seen go like a decade at the end of his career, petering out and not playing in even the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
But don't you think that he always believes in his heart of hearts that he'll be able to drag them to the finish line?
Well, God,
well, I think that's part of
evidence?
I think that's part of it, right? Like, I think with he's one of those guys that is almost, I don't want to say stubborn, but is like, I am not throwing in the towel on anything because I know I'm good enough. I know if you put me around the right guys, we're good enough. I also wonder, like, he's what, 37 right now? And he's playing the way he is. Like, okay, I know Pittsburgh's not going to be good this year. They might not be good next year. But, like, could he keep playing at a high enough level that he could do what Mario did to him, you know, and kind of pass it off? I don't know. I mean, it would have to be the right circumstances, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was in the back of his head as well.
Okay, moving on here. And for those who don't know, Frank grew up playing minor hockey with Jordan Binnington in suburban Toronto. What did you think of your boy against Sweden, and what do you think about the goaltending arrangement here going forward?
Well, you know what? It looked a little uncomfortable, perhaps a little leaky, but I love the way he responded, and I think that's something that has been pretty consistent with Binner's career, is the fact that, you know, when the chips are down, and the chips were down for him, he was in the East Coast League at one point. You know, he was in the AHL, not even playing for his team's correct affiliate at one point, and chips were down. Guess what? He found his way to the NHL, and he was unbeatable. He won a Stanley Cup. You know, so he came back in that game, made some big saves in overtime, obviously gives his team a chance to win. Now, moving forward, it will be interesting to see what Jon Cooper wants to do with the goaltending position here, because, like, if you take away anything from Tampa, it's that it's one goalie the entire time, and why would you? It's Andrei Vasilevsky.
That's the thing, though. Why would you? Here it's different. I was kind of saying, like, this gives you a free pass to take a look at Adin Hill. Like, it's actually a pretty good scenario. You won the game. You didn't get the 3 points for the regulation win, but you still got your 2. Binnington let in a couple goals that would open the door to give you a look at Adin Hill, and no one would bat an eye at it. And if Adin Hill goes in the net against the Americans and he plays lights out, you're probably going to go back to him. If he plays okay or poor, you go back to Binnington and know that he's going to bounce back because you just saw him do it in game. And it's something that's been pretty consistent for him throughout the course of his career. Like, he's kind of wired a little differently, which I like for him in a tournament like this. But yeah, it was, you know, the performance didn't blow any of us away, but the fact that he was able to stay in it and make those big saves, I think speaks to, you know, his confidence and mental strength. Are you only asking for Grant Fuhr-like behavior here? Stop enough pucks to win the game too. But to do that, I think you need to ask Canada to score 4 goals, don't you? Given the firepower, is that crazy to ask of the forwards?
No, I don't think so. Like, there's enough firepower there for sure. And if that power play gets a few more looks, it seemed pretty unstoppable.
They're about to face the best goaltending in the tournament, but I think they can score 4.
You know, at the same time, Henry Jokiharju just scored a shot through the middle of the net last game on the best goalie in the world. Like, you know, I don't know. Crosby and McKinnon were pretty good. Connor McDavid was playing on fast forward. He was at a different level. Like, and you know, Connor Hellebuck is an unbelievable goaltender. Hasn't had a great track record the past couple of years in the playoffs, you know, like, so there's always there's always an angle, you know what I mean, with all these guys. Like nothing is really bulletproof. But yeah, I think 4 goals in a game for this group to do it again against the Americans is attainable. It's not an easy thing to do, but we also are saying that Binnington's going to let in 1 or 2 leaky ones by that logic, and maybe he doesn't, or maybe Adin Hill doesn't, and it does, just maybe they get 18 shots on this guy and they're not super high quality chances, and he makes the saves. Like we just don't know, because it's one game, and it's kind of cliche, but anything can happen in these one game situations.
Over the past 2 years, every once in a while, we've asked, when will Rick Tocchet put the lotto line back together? When will he put the big 3 back together? And when they really needed an offensive burst. How often do you think Jon Cooper's tempted to put the big 3 out there at the same time, McKinnon, Crosby, and McDavid? Do you think it's against the Americans in particular? Do you think he uses that at all?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I think that's something that as a coach, you keep it in your back pocket, and it's like the nuclear option. And I would love to just pull it out, like, just because why leave it on the table? Like, you imagine you go through this whole tournament and you knew that you could have gone Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid for at least a couple shifts just to see what it looked like, and you didn't do it. Just for curiosity's sake, like, forget about the entertainment value and what the fans might think, but for the coach's head to be like, I could have done that and I didn't do that. I really can't see him doing that. Like, I think if you get a tired group of Americans and it's a minute 30 into a shift and they get, they ice the puck and they can't change, and it was like the Marchand line or the point line that was out there, like, you got to throw the big boys together and see what it's all about.
Sounds like Sam Bennett for Travis Konechny. What does that give them?
Little like sandpaper, but like Konechny has sandpaper, but Bennett's just heavy. Like he's heavy and he's mean, and he can kind of go toe to toe with, call it the Tkachuk brothers, because now if they're going to be playing on the same line, that's a little bit of like a Bash Brothers line, and it's mean and it's big and it's in your face. And I think for Bennett, like, he can counteract a little bit of that, which is nice to have in the lineup. And there's a reason why you picked that guy. Similar to how Blake is asking about the big line with all those guys, like having Sam Bennett sit in the press box for the entire tournament, that doesn't make a lot of sense either, because you got this guy here because he has such a unique skill set to begin with. So I think you're kind of matching heavy and mean with heavy and mean, and try and pair it up with the right combination.
100%, and heavy and mean on the Florida Panthers too, if he's lining up across from Matthew Tkachuk. And said in the opening block, you knew it wasn't going to be a physical game against Sweden. If you're taking Sam Bennett, you're taking him for games against the USA. Lastly, for me, Shea Theodore, or Aldergroves, Shea Theodore gone. Cale Makar apparently nicked, and Thomas Harley added, are you worried about the Canadian defense against this explosive group of American forwards?
I'm going to say, like, mildly concerned, just because, like, Shea Theodore is a big loss. He's one of the best Canadian defensemen, was a lock to make this team. So good, moving the puck, skating, defends well. Like, there's no weakness to the guy's game. He's incredible. And, Travis Sanheim is a different kind of player. He's versatile. He's versatile in the sense that he can play both sides. He can carry the puck quite well, and defends well, but just, Theodore is a little more refined in everything he does. Now, the Cale Makar thing is interesting because, you would think that, okay, Sanheim's going to slide in, he'll play a regular shift. But when a big defenseman like Theodore goes out, you're going to lean on your top guys even more, right? If they were playing 22, now they're playing 24 or 25. Makar being hurt obviously doesn't help that. Makes it harder on him, but hopefully he's okay and it's nothing, serious. And, they said it was an illness, so he could wake up tomorrow, feel great and feel like he's ready to go. And sometimes that weirdly happens where guys get sick and then they come back and they play unbelievable. Like the for a 1-game thing, the flu is weird that way. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I'm not overly concerned because I think there's enough there in a lot of different manners that can help kind of weather the storm.
All right, buddy, you enjoy the game, and thank you for all the Sidney Crosby insight. Just so you know, I find myself every time I was in the Pittsburgh room, I found myself just watching him too.
Hopefully he was clothed.
Yeah, that would be creepy otherwise. Yeah,
For sure.